This conference will now be recorded.
No transactions are ever the same. And then there's just something so gratifying about helping somebody to get into that home that they think that they could never afford, or didn't think was possible that they would be able to find somebody. And it's a very gratifying job. Agents being able to find the right home, knowing that they can grow their family and their story there. That's, you gotta have your family, you gotta have your place to make your story happen. So tonight we were just going to mainly focus on VA lending. In VA lending, like any lending, is never the same. No two transactions are ever the same. And there's all kinds of different little loopholes. And I don't want to claim that I'm really the expert on VA. I don't know the answer. I can certainly find it. And there's a VA handbook that's only 400 pages. I have not memorized it. I did skim through it, and I grabbed a lot of information that to me was situations that have come up over the last several years that I've been doing lending. That it's like, oh, why would that be a problem? Why would the lender have an issue with that? But it's in the VA handbook, so I'm glad that I have that resource I can always go to and look at and find. So as an agent, if you guys ever have a situation on a house, is this going to be an issue for the lender? Let me know. I'll look it up and we'll get to the bottom of it. So I primarily like to work with a company called United Wholesale Mortgage. I have my account executive's phone number, cell phone number. I can call them at any time. I can call them on the weekends. Just super easy company to work with, easy upload, super fast turnaround times. Typically close a loan in about anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. And that actually goes for VA loans too. Right now they're faster because appraisers are faster. And of course, appraisers always dictate the transaction because you can't do anything with them. So we were hoping to have Dennis Lindstrom, which was our VA appraiser that had agreed to come tonight. He looked at that handbook of his, and he is actually not, I guess they're not authorized to speak about VA, basically how to pass your appraisal. But I did, that's probably where I'll spend the most amount of my time is just some of the things that will come up with a VA home. I know in the past, a lot of buyers and sellers would shy away from the VA loan because sellers especially like, oh, I don't want a VA buyer because I have to pay for everything. That's not the case anymore. VA, of course, they require a test report. Those can bring up all kinds of stuff, but anything health and safety is what has to be covered. Anything section 1. And the nice thing is section 1, health and safety. Anything health and safety. The test report, yeah. So on the test report, so if you're going to do a VA loan, you have a VA buyer, they're looking at a house, there's peeling, chipping paint, the shutters are falling off. Sounds like the rental all the time, but just a disaster. Probably not going to be the best house, although it is possible. You just have to get a test report. You have a clear test report before we can close. United Wholesale does do escrow holdbacks. What a holdback is just if there's money held back in escrow to pay those repairs. You can still close escrow, they just have to get them repaired and the money is sitting there. So it's an option, but ideally, somebody wants to be able to buy a house that's, in halfway decent condition. They get a test report, and either party can now pay for that test report. So the buyer can pay for it all, the seller can pay for it all. The seller can say, I'll pay up to $5,000 worth of repairs, the buyer pays the rest. Whatever the combination, as long as it's done and repairs are completed. So it is a nice way to go. Again, it used to be that it was, there's too many restrictions. In a way, they're a little bit similar to FHA restrictions, no peeling, chipping paint, no banisters that are loose. I have lenders that will that can and do CalVet loans, they're very challenging. Very, 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 very challenging and very, very time consuming. And one, they put limitations. They say, you know, your broker company would be this much. They can only pay for this much in fees. They can, and sometimes they'll actually give credit, a lot of credits. They'll pay for some things. I mean, I can get back to them more of the qualifications on it, but they're pretty strict. Completely, and I do have business cards here on the email address. Yeah, definitely. Those can be really, really good loans. They really can be good loans. But the one broker that I spoke with, that I work with on Sierra Pacific, a number of different lenders, Sierra Pacific, she said, I have never been able to get a CalVet loan because there's so many loopholes and restrictions. And I mean, what's, you know, it's a challenge. It's a true challenge. Exactly, yeah. The VA loans are just, they're such great loans because, you know, we have people that have served our country, let's help serve them, and let's help them get into a home. I even have a lender that will do VA 203K loans, and that's a rehab loan with a VA loan together. So United Wholesale does a loan to 620, a credit score down to 620. I have another lender that will go to 520. Rates aren't going to be as pretty when they go a little lower, but certainly an option. You can go up to $4 million. It seems like a lot on a jumbo loan. So a rehab loan, and I do FHA rehab loans. I do the VA ones. So a VA rehab loan is, let's say you find a house without peeling, chipping, paint, cracked windows, that the buyer gets the accepted offer. They get a contractor that goes in and says, yep, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, and they give a bid for all the things that they're going to get repaired. That bid then goes to the lender, who provides it to the appraiser. The appraiser goes out and says, yep, that's wrong, oh, it's on the list, and that's wrong, this needs to be repaired. All those things are included. So let's say all those things are $50,000, and the house is $350,000. So then they get a loan for $450,000, and all those things get repaired. So the lender says, yeah, we're going to give you a loan for $400,000. The appraiser, or excuse me, the contractor gets usually like their 50% of material costs and the permit costs at the close of escrow. They have to get the job done within 30 days. And then the appraiser goes back out and says, yep, all those things are repaired. You're good to go. Send it back to the lender, and then it's the other half of their money is released and they're paid. So it can be a really, really great program. I kind of feel like we might be moving into that area because there's such limited homes for people to find. If, you know, it's like, I should really want a house, $500,000, $500,000 house. Well, have you looked at a 350 and added got the plans for a master bedroom and bath to make it be that $500,000 home that you want? Just a possibility, but certainly doable. They are time consuming. They can be time consuming. And finding a contractor that is proactive in paperwork, but I've done it. They're a great option, a really, really good option. There's also conventional, they call it a streamline loan. Same way, it's not a VA loan, it's more just a strict conventional loan. Rehab loan, same thing. There's a number of different products that you can do to renovate a home to make it be what you want. So along with just doing a purchase, you can always do a VA cash out. There's, if a veteran was to buy right now, rates aren't really pretty. They're getting creeping up there. But the nice thing is that at any time, if a veteran was to buy right now and they were concerned about the rates, they can always do what's called an IRL. It's an interest rate reduction loan later. No refinance required. I mean, excuse me, no appraisal required. It's just an interest rate reduction. So if it's a new loan, a new rate, we can just basically substitute that in. There's, you know, there's of course paperwork involved with the lender and everything, but it reduces the rate, so they're not stuck with that rate. Another common myth that I think a lot of people had was that VA loans were always going to be 30 years. They're not. You can do a 20-year if you qualify. You can do a 15, but they have to qualify. So, uh, manufactured homes are actually eligible with the VA loan. It can only be one unit. It has to be on land, and it has to already have that 433A, that certificate stamped on the foundation that says that it was bought in 2019 and it was put on the land in 2019 and it's good to go and it's a permanent foundation, all of that. So those are eligible. They're not available on jumbo loans, which I couldn't imagine a manufactured home being a jumbo price. And when I say jumbo, jumbo refers to the loan limit. So loan limit up to $715,000 is still considered conventional. Anything over $715,000 is considered jumbo, and it's a whole nother pricing scenario. There's another thing that it wasn't really covered in any of the handbook that I was reading, but if you deal with a veteran that is disabled, 100% disabled, from being discharged and disabled, they can get it's a tax exemption. So each year, the state of California they set the price, or the county sets the price on what the exemption amount is. For instance, this year, it's $224,991. However they arrive at that number, I don't know. So if a person has a house that's valued at $300,000, they don't pay taxes on the first $224,991. That's exempt. So anything over that, that's what they pay their taxes on. And it changes each year. It's really nice. The frustrating part, and I wish I can change this, is that when they go to qualify for a loan, they do have to qualify as if they were paying those taxes. Then you get the paperwork with the county, fill it out. It's usually fairly quick, but it also will help with that little supplemental tax bill. It'll get adjusted off of that too, and then they only end up paying taxes on that small portion. And then a lot of times they end up getting all their money back that was originally collected at the close of escrow to go into their income. So it's kind of like a win-win all the way around. VA loans also, even though it's 100% financing, you can get escrow waivers. What I mean by an escrow waiver is that if usually on a conventional loan, so aside from VA, conventional loans, yes, you can get escrow waivers as long as you have a decent equity position, meaning you're putting a load of money down. On a VA loan, even though it's 100% conventional, or excuse me, 100% financing, the lenders will still allow for a escrow waiver, meaning all that they're paying in their payments is principal and interest. They still have to qualify, but it's just principal and interest. So it's kind of nice for those people that want to be able to have that option to pay them separately. Sure. So if you buy a house and the lender says, yep, your principal and interest payment is, let's say, $2,000. And with your taxes and insurance, your income, so your escrow, your payment is now $2,500. If you want, you can pay those taxes and insurance separately on your own yourself, but only pay your lender your principal. Yeah, so it's kind of nice, but I find, myself included, it's easier to skip a payment, not think about it. Because who wants to get a tax bill right before Christmas? Yeah. Not fun. So yes, United Hotel does offer the escrow waivers. Another thing that's kind of nice for a lot of people, especially right now with the increase in interest rates, is they're doing 2-1 buy downs. Do you remember these, Joyce? 2-1 buy downs. Yep, they used to be very, very common. And I thought, what's a 2-1 buy down? I've been in lending a long time, but I haven't ever had a lender do these. So what it is, and they can only be purchased with seller credits. So you're doing a transaction, the seller has to agree, yeah, sure, I'll give them $10,000. Instead of reducing my price, because a lot of people are paying $40,000 over asking, now it's the buyers have been asking for those credits now. So let's say they get a $10,000 closing cost credit. They can buy down an interest rate in the 2 and buy down. So let's say the first year, let's say it's 5%. The second year of the 2 and buy down is 6%. And then on the third year, it would go to 7%, which is about where rates are at right now, in that 7% range. So it gives the person who's buying a home, it's like, gosh, this payment is so big. But if we do a 2 and buy down, it kind of eases them into having that big payment. Smaller payment the first year, a little bigger the next, and then the big payment. The nice thing is also with the VA loan, and at any time, raise your hand to that if you ever want me to say something again. Sure. No, good question. Very good question. No, they actually have to qualify as if they were paying 7% all along. What she means by qualifying is you have so much money coming in, and your mortgage payment and your monthly bills, your student loans, your car payments, all those things, and then you have your loan, your new loan price. You have to qualify that debt to income ratio. So the lender says, we'll do a 2-1 buy down for you, but you have to qualify because you have another 28 years of paying 7%. You have to qualify as if you're already paying that 7% right now. Exactly. Exactly. Financially prepared. Yes. Yeah. My account qualified. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. My account executive did make a good point today. He said, you know, if somebody gets a house now and rates go down in a year, but they have this credit, again, that credit can only be for the cost, I should say, the cost to do the 2-1 buy down has to come from the seller. The seller, the buyer says, oh, I've got a savings account, I'm just gonna take my money out and do that 2-1 buy down. Won't work. It has to come from the seller credit. The seller has to really give them a credit to do that 2-1 buy down. Let's say in a second year, rates really go down. They're like, well, wait a minute, I had a 2-1 buy down. You actually still save that credit portion, and they do it as a principal reduction. They take it off of the principal and do an interest rate reduction. So there's all kinds of little creative ways. And that's what I meant by no two loans are ever the same. So if you ever have a scenario, you have a buyer, you have a house you're interested in, they have certain financing questions, things that you shoot me an email, send me a text. I'd be happy to look into it and see if we can make it work as a VA loan. Yeah, and that's a really good I always say it's a good thing my kids are grown and raising out of the house because my husband is a general manager for a large industrial company here. And he's on his phone. We compete in the car. It's like, no, I'm seeing this. And he's over here trying to say this. We're always on our cell phone. So we're kind of like teenagers in that regard. We're always on our phone. So really, I mean, VA loans, again, VA loans are just, they're great. I love doing them. They can be a little sticklers at times, different qualifications, but they are really a great loan. So the first thing yep, that was my next step. Yeah. So somebody comes in and they want to get a VA loan, but they don't know where to start. The first thing I do is I go to the VA website and I get what's called their certificate of eligibility. So what that is, they usually bring me their DD-214, which is that piece of paper that says that they got discharged and it was an honorable discharge, because if it's non-honorable, it's not going to work. And depending on their service, even National Guard will qualify. It depends on the length of service. It depends on the type of service that they've done. But there are several different branches that will qualify by the VA loan. The VA loan, or that certificate of eligibility, is going to tell me how much they qualify for, and if they're exempt from the funding. So This is how VA makes their money. They have a funding fee that they use to basically manage the loan going forward. So there's, so it could be a few $1,000s. If they're disabled, they're exempt, they don't have a funding fee. And then that dollar amount is not tied to their qualifying, so they don't have to qualify with that funding fee in there. It's just added to the loan balance. Well, it has to be an honorable discharge, and then it has to be, I guess, the length of time. I started with 29, but no, it doesn't matter. It just depends on when they served. If it's during wartime or peacetime, the length of service that they do, what they qualify for. So there's an eligibility amount that they qualify for. Nope, you don't have to be disabled at all. Oh, to be exempt? Yes, yeah. That exemption part, it comes in on the disability part. That really is almost like the ticket that the lender is looking for, that certificate of eligibility. That's where it all starts. And then the other thing that's kind of nice too, if you ever have a spouse of a veteran, they can actually buy a VA loan. Even a spouse from a missing service member, they can buy. They can. Exactly, because they were a spouse, they were married to a veteran, and then let's say the spouse passed, that wife, that widow, can then still buy with a veteran loan. No, just spouses. Yeah, spouses. Yeah. Now, I did learn though that children could still get that credit for education and everything. So there's all kinds of benefits that go with it, like as far as mine. A lot of times people will say, oh yeah, I had a veteran loan a long time ago, but I already paid it off. Well, actually, believe it or not, they have to reapply to get that certification cleared. It's a little bit of a process, not much, but it is. It's a paid in full. So entitlement charge on a paid in full loan cannot be restored until the veteran applies for the restoration of entitlement. Kind of interesting. You wouldn't think that that would actually apply, but it does. Until that loan's been paid off, a lot of times people will have that loan paid off, and then they want to buy another one. They actually have to, it's kind of like people used to like get their house, their loan would be paid off. And the lender would say, yeah, you don't pay in full, but they would never record with the recorder's office that their loan was paid. So it's kind of the same thing. They have to, the VA doesn't follow along, make sure that they paid that loan off. They have to, get in touch with the VA and say, hey, I paid my loan off. They want their entitlement restored.
If we talk about being able to work at once, because a lot of people don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And not only they're having like to be able to work.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
People have an opportunity to make rental income in the future.
Correct. Yeah. They bought the house and just had one little baby, and now they have three. They paid that home off, and they want to buy a bigger one.
And they can go anything, right? Here, now they want to stay and get something else.
Yeah. As far as interesting enough, and we'll get to that, the HES report that I was talking about earlier. HES reports aren't required in every state. we're considered, we're in the map of the, what they call it, we're on the high spectrum of termites. Yeah. The other thing that you can do too is this entitlement, the certificate of eligibility that I requested from the VA. Let's say who has a house that they just love, but they can't afford it, or they don't have their entitlement that would cover the 25% that the lenders require. They can actually pay, do a down payment. They're not required to, but if they want that house and they don't have that eligibility, they can pay it down to qualify, which is kind of nice, but I find most people do the VA loan to have extra financing to be able to get away with that part. So non-purchasing spouse, if you have somebody that married couple, the spouse wants to buy, the other spouse does not, they can buy on their own. However, the debt of the other spouse will be included in their debt to yeah, so you can't, you don't have to claim their income, but it would help to qualify. But the debt part does play a factor. And every once in a while, I've had people that, no, I just want to buy it on my own. Just want to buy it on my own. And, but if you want to have two people to qualify, because two incomes are usually better than one, you can't buy VA unless you're so it's kind of married. If you want the two incomes to qualify, yeah. It's kind of a gray area, and I would be happy to look into it because you would think, yeah, but I've heard California is a community property state, but then I've heard it's not, but then it does. It didn't really clarify that, but I thought about that earlier too, because people say, well, you've been together longer than married people or longer than married people, so it is a little bit of a gray area. But again, you can buy one spouse can buy not the other. Any questions so far? Yes, but a veteran has to assume it. And what she means by assumable is, Joyce has a veteran loan, a VA loan, and I want to buy it. I can assume that loan for the balance that she has owing on it, but I have to qualify. I believe you would, yes. I haven't actually done with those. I haven't ever had an assumable loan. You have done one? Yeah. I know it's possible. There's a form in there that you can't just have somebody come along and start making your payments. You have to go through the process. Yes. No. The one thing that you can't do is what they call split entitlement. So you can't use a little bit of your entitlement, a little bit of your entitlement for one house. It has to either be all of yours or all of yours. So, and it just, it makes sense because who's entitled to the encumber? Exactly. Yeah. So initially was that, I was reading through all the guidelines and like, okay, what do I explain first about homes? Because really, homes are all homes are probably all have a little bit of work to be done, right? Unless they're brand new construction. But I even had brand new construction fail a test report. So it's just test report doesn't always refer to little bugs. There's all kinds of things that it can be on a test report that would cause something to fail. So I started reading through and I thought, well, I'm going to pick out some of the things that actually I've come across in my timeline of doing lending. So probably the biggest one, because Humboldt County is notorious for detached sheds and other improvements on the site. So like a little extra unit. So it could be, it may be included in the value if it meets the requirements. And then if the improvement present has any health or safety hazards, it has to be removed from the home entirely. So it's kind of I've had it come up where a garage wasn't, had health and safety issues and tear it down. But it was already on its way. It, but they wouldn't try to save it. But yeah, it can be a frustrating thing because if it doesn't qualify, then it does. Um, One thing that Dennis had told me about, and this is something new, and I don't know if you, have you heard of the Tidewater initiative? Tidewater, and I don't know, and he even said, I don't know how they came up with the name. It's kind of interesting. So when you do a loan, or if you do, you get a appraisal back and it comes in lower than you're expecting. So let's say it was 350 and it came back at 325. You can always do a rebuttal and you can get that. You can say, well, hey, what about this comp? Or what about this comp? Or what about this comp? Have you thought about using these? And you can ask for them to adjust the price. But that's usually after the appraisal comes back. So what Dennis was explaining to me was they have a thing now where 48 hours after he's done the appraisal, he notifies the lender. The lender then reaches out to the agent because you can't talk to your appraisers. No. Yeah. Yeah, you're not supposed to communicate. Exactly.
I really appreciate it. The seller wanted to know that he didn't really get work. He went back and tried to cost. And she was able to bring it up. Floor plan, AP map.
Perfect.
Oh, and on the last one I did, I included the information on the 2030 carbon standard.
Oh, good. Great idea. Great idea. It definitely improves the neighborhood. Yeah. Yeah.
And for when
Perfect. Perfect. Yeah. So this new initiative that they started, he said they, by contacting the lender right away, and then the lender contacts the agent, and they say, hey, you have 48 hours to give me some more comps back to the lender, which then sends them back to the appraiser to try to bring that value up, comps that maybe they weren't aware of, rather than going through the rebuttal process afterwards. Kind of nice. They call it a Tidewater initiative, and he said, I have no clue how they came up with Tidewater initiative, but
Yeah.
and VA loans they do follow the same thing as far as like they are in flood zone. They go through the same map, FEMA map, flooding. Properties can, I have this one. Properties can be both residential and business. So if you have somebody that lives upstairs of a business, they're not gonna get any of the structure part of the business, or excuse me, any of the content of the business, any value. But they can, if it doesn't detour from the neighborhood, so the property is primarily residential use. The non-residential use does not impair the residential characteristics. So if it looks like a business, it's probably not going to be a good thing. But if it looks like a home, then they're fine. And then the property, of course, is legally permitted. So it's kind of nice. If somebody has something that they want to be able to use that big shop, and so they set up as a machine shop, got veterans who wants a machine shop, that would work. Oh,
Me to get like a space.
yeah, well, there you go. Any residential and commercial are the same, but it has to look
That's another residential.
right. That's right. So I had a situation where there was two homes on one property, and the client had made one her daycare. And it had a big sign in the front, it had a ton of toys, and the inside was painted in primary colors. You guys get the picture? It's looking more like a business than a residence. So it wasn't necessarily gonna work. It was cute, but yeah. So on an FHA, everything, all the utilities have to be on. On a VA, they don't know why, but they say that the appraiser is not there to instruct, checking the mechanical things, it's not a either.
That's just better needs on.
Have to see that everything's working. So I've also had this one, it was it's doable, there's always things that you could do during a transaction to make it work. So if this was a 2-unit, anyway, between a 2 and 4 unit property, that they all share water, sewage, and gas, and electricity, if they're all together, that's fine. They each have to have their own shower. And you can buy a 2-unit property, they can buy a 4-unit property, live in one and live the others. And you get credit for those other rents to help qualify. Yeah, to qualify. Yeah, it can be really great, because a lot of times, the way rents are, you get so much rent for all those units, the veteran ends up living there for free. So it can be really beneficial. Here's the difference though, and this is like if they have individual water supply, where they have their own water tank, they live. That's great, but if public water and sewer is available and local authorities mandate connection, the appraiser must prepare the appraisal subject to, so they have to get it. So if you come across that nice, cute little rural property that somebody really loves, that they have, water and sewer is available, it's required. It could, because water and sewer may not be available there to hook up to. Yeah, only if it's at the street, it's required. Also had people with, if they do have a little individual water, there is a water test, which is fairly common. Of course, it's good for 90 days, and then it is. An individual, an independent third-party person has no ties to the transaction. Then there's also this, all tests must be performed by a disinterested third party. Appraisers have to comment on if the veteran is aware of the water. So it's like, of course they know it's individual water or water source, individual water. So they have to be able to know and be aware of that. They have a well, and it's a shared well. And you would think that, well, technically they have to have their own, but some wells will produce the amount of water that will more than cover multiple units. They can. You actually can have a well that will cover more than one home. It has yeah, there's a lot of restrictions to it though. Yeah, it has to be very, it has to flow so many gallons per minute. And then here's the caveat, which I think is their ticket, out of jail. The lenders must obtain the shared will agreement and review the agreement and determine eligibility. So in a way, it's kind of like, you got to go through all these, you have to have a shared will agreement. There's a permanent easement to be able to use it. There's a lot of different things that go into it. I actually had a client that was thinking they weren't going to qualify if they had a shared well, and we actually were able to make it work. So, our roof can only have 3 layers. Kind of common, a lot of people know that. Oh, really? Wow, interesting.
Contractor that I have.
Oh,
2 layers. He said after that you have to parallel.
interesting.
I'm sorry, this looks.
Right. Pretty heavy. Yeah. I had where a roof is questionable, but it's good for, it's usually 3 to 5. A lender is usually okay with it. And a lot of times you can get those 3 to 5 letters from that contractor or that roofer to do the roof at a later date. So I know that they're very, very busy right now. Got people saying, I can't get my roof out there for another 4 months. So it's crazy, but yeah. So appraisers are not required to climb on the roof. Attics, appraisers are not required to go in the attic, but they will look in the attic, usually looking for those water spots on the roof. But they will look in there. And crawl space are not required to go into a crawl space, but they will look under it. And then probably our favorite one, Joyce Carmen knows this one all too well. Anything before 1978 has what? Lead basement. Yep, that's always a disclosure with the transaction. So, of course, anything peeling, chipping paint is going to be an automatic subject to get fixed and repaired before. That can be a tricky one sometimes because we're not counting. And here's that lovely map I was talking about. So the dark blue Florida, most of California being that the other blue, which is where we are, which is moderate to heavy termite inspection, which hence is the reason for the pest report. I don't know. Hawaii is that dark blue, and in the southern states where it's the humidity, yeah, and then, but California, I think out here is going to be more of that dry heat too, so it just all depends, but I mean, more than anything, it's that. Yeah. Exactly. So again, we've got to clear the top. Neither party can pay for the inspection, neither party can pay for the repairs. That's usually when you negotiate your contract. So, yeah. Yeah, it's that map, the very heavy to very moderate to heavy, which is where we are, is required to get those. This is an interesting one, but I don't know how it happened. You can't have a residential structure in a high voltage electrical transmission area. So you have to have at least 100 feet from a high voltage area. Yes. Yep. Right. And you know what? I had another one, and I would have never thought of it. It's just a small little garden pond, just a little garden pond. The electrical wire was right over the top of it. Not even thinking. They got called. They drained the pond. Manufactured homes, I mentioned that earlier, do work for VA loans. Minimum requirements of a single, although my lender does not do single wide manufactured home loans. They do double wide. Has to be a minimum of 700 square feet, which I couldn't imagine having a double wide having less than 700 square feet. Teeny tiny, yeah. And then modular coming to the city they're treated the same as a manufacturer. They just have to have all of their running gear removed, things like that. Small little things. But they also qualify, which is kind of nice. They have a couple other restrictions, which they have to have a vapor barrier by manufacturers running the but they do offer those. And those are actually becoming more popular. I have not done one, but there is a way to get a brand new construction manufactured home and the land on one loan. So you could go pick out your manufactured home, pick out your land, as long as you qualify for both. And you can do that.
Does that include the setup fees and the grading and the permits?
That's the other part of it, is that, the 203K loan is the same thing. When you start getting hiring highway patrol, because you need a highway patrol to watch the road while you're bringing in, and then you have PG&E for a $10,000 telephone pole that you need for your property, it can get really expensive. USDA does it too, but VA also doesn't. They do, I did read though that they do cover some of those costs. So in a way, it's like a construction loan in a sense, but it's a possibility. Yes, yes. 203K usually just refers to FHA. And if a person can get away from that, from a FHA versus a streamlined or a home renovation loan, it's better. Because the home renovation loan is going to be a conventional loan, and their mortgage insurance is going to be based on their credit and their percentage of equity. So if somebody only has 5% down, no credit, their mortgage insurance is going to be less. And mortgage insurance is that, it's kind of like, you may think you just bought the house, but the lender really just bought the house, and you get to rent from the lender for the next 30 years. So they say, oh, if you only put 5% down, we want a little bit of security to make sure that you're going to get your payment. So we're going to charge a little bit of mortgage insurance. And that mortgage insurance is always determined on a conventional loan based on your equity position. So if you have 10% down, that's even better, or 15% down. But your credit score. So if you have, let's say, a 640 credit score, probably going to be a little bit more because your likelihood of not making your payment is a little higher because your credit score is inside. So kind of tricky little tricks of the trade. FHA is just, it is a great program. But if you can come up with 3.5% down, you can probably come up with 5% down. So I have 5% on conventional loans. You have good credit, 5%. Great way to go. As far as the conventional, if you can go VA, I would always recommend conventional. I mean, VA. If you have all the qualifications, then yeah, VA. Because VA, just all the way around, their rates are usually better. The possibility of what? The tax exemption if they're disabled. 100%. That's, I mean, I had a client who I've actually worked with her for a while. I helped her with getting all that done, and paperwork through the county and certification, and she got this big lump sum back. It was just like, it was so nice to have, and it covered her entire supplemental tax bill because she got credit for it in the year that she bought it, and then the next year, it made all the difference in the world. So it really can be beneficial to if they're disabled, 100% disabled. 75%, 100% counts. Can you guys think of any questions? I know we covered a lot of information. Probably talked a little bit more lender fees than some of you are probably used to, but it's all about finding a loan or finding a home and finding the loan that fits the best for the client. So you guys are and then who here is an agent? Or you can raise your hands, raise it halfway. Awesome. Yeah. It counts. it's a process, and sometimes when people come in and they think, oh, yeah, I'm gonna do a VA or an FHA loan. And FHA loans, like I said, they're great loans. It used to be that because their rate was so low, it would be a great way to go. But when you add that mortgage insurance in there, it's pretty high. It can go up a lot. And then the other thing, is that they have that upfront funding fee. It's, I want to say, I think it's 1.15% of the loan amount. It's just a funding fee. It's like, you're doing a FHA loan, we're going to charge you. And they add it to the loan balance. The other thing is that mortgage insurance is on there for the life of the loan. Doesn't matter if you pay it down, if you have 50% equity in your mortgage, still got that mortgage insurance on there, unless you refinance or sold. We, I'm trying to pass FHA loans, but I will do everything I can to get them into another loan versus. That's me, sorry. So anything we can to get them into another loan, just to avoid that funding fee, and then the high mortgage insurance. The mortgage insurance is the outrageous part. So. Yes. Oh, 100%. I've had people come in and think, oh, I'm not ready to buy yet. I don't think I qualify. I just want to see what I would qualify for. I'm going to find out they're in great shape to buy, and they had no idea. And I've had the opposite. People come in and think, yeah, I want to go buy this house. So at $450,000, I've got like $15,000 worth of payment. So what are you thinking? And to break it to them gently, let me help you understand this. This is what a lender's going to require and ask and need. So that way, it is always good because then as agents, you're not running around Humboldt County showing your homes and they don't qualify. And I've had that happen too. I do. I do. Yeah. Yeah.
And then, well,
Yeah.
did not, so.
I have. I always try to figure out, what they have to work with for their down payment. If they have the option of having any family members within gift funds, if they have a 401k that they can do a 401k loan with, those are a great option for people because a 401k is your future, but so is your home. Your home may grow faster in equity and growth than a 401k could, especially if but it's a great way to go because sometimes they can borrow a significant amount and only pay a very small fee back instead of qualifying. I always try to explain to people that the closing costs are not all cost. Part of it is your tax and insurance, which you would have to pay anyways. But this is what it's going to look like. This is what you're going to need. Yes. Yes, so you would still, even if you had an escrow waiver, and that just means that your payment that you're going to make is only going to be your principal and interest portion. You don't have to come up with all this money up front to pay your taxes and insurance. However, a lender is going to want, if it's within a certain timeline before that due date, let's say we bought a house and we closed escrow today, the lender's going to want to make sure that you're paying your taxes that are due in December. So those are coming out. And then they're going to want insurance covered for a full year. That's what it usually is for the purchase. They want to make sure that there's insurance cover on the home that they just bought. And if there's-
Sets you up for success.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know, financial person.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I, I guess I always talk to the bigger person. That's way to look at something that they could order. Sometimes nominee plans are you know, if I'm gonna pay for it. So, thank you so much.
Of course. Well, if you guys have a business card, don't have it in a cup, you'll get a cup or. Yeah, I have a cute little coffee. He doesn't like coffee. Yes, if anybody wants a card. Do a picture.
Yeah. Yeah, with your wine glasses. I mean, absolutely. Do you, Bill? Do you, Bill? Gonna get you You don't want it on the photo?
Yeah.
No, I'm just gonna do it on my phone.
Thank you so much for being here, guys. Thank you so much. Okay, cheers.
Business card. Yeah. Perfect. Is this okay right here? Perfect. Perfect. Yes, that's perfect. Find the pin there.
I'm gonna deal with this. This conference will now be recorded.